Time seems crazy. I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a sip. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink. Water for the thirsty. I drink.
It's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. Cause the time is coming soon when every eye gon' see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst. What the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink, refreshing ink flowing out of cups. This life they gotta touch, you liberate them out of cuffs. Your faith is undivided trust, created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give her honor the first thing that I do when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who desire to drink
You're
it up.
like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Been a hard weekend, it left me high and dry. I've been going through the ringer, I need you in my life. Time seems crazy. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink.
Good night, everybody. Welcome to Water for the Thirsty. I'm here with the ladies on another Ladies First Friday. We have Sharika, Z, and Miss Avanique, who... Can I tell them what happened to you? Sure. She had some teeth pulled at the dentist today, and it was not a great experience. So
That's just the worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
She's soldiering it out with us tonight, and we are very appreciative to have you and for you to make that effort and sacrifice. We value you. Thank you. Yeah, so it's been a while since I have joined you guys, and your amazing job last time. I kind of promised that I wouldn't be here, but you know, traffic.
To your own house.
No, that's not what I meant. Traffic prevented the designated host from, you know, from me being able to hand off and slide, you know, out of the way. So
my dog peed on my carpet.
yeah.
And I just shampooed the carpet today. And he cock up his foot and pee on the carpet.
That dog need legs.
I gave him good. You watched me shampoo it. Had to take the shampoo back out and shampoo it again.
He must say, I didn't like the smell.
Someone said because he's not neutered, that his smell probably left it, and now he's like,
I need to,
Carpet in my territory. Wow.
I need to bring this back a little bit.
I hope it was worth the licks.
Mm.
And it's still gone.
See, I see you have your Bible engraved.
Well, no. I took my Bible back.
What?
I did.
What do you mean you took your... Oh, you took your Bible back from... So what happened to the engraved Bible?
I have it.
Oh, so you have 2 Bibles.
Yeah.
Why did you take it back?
Because
Can
I
you talk
already...
about that online?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay. Why'd you take your Bible back?
So I was gonna give this Bible. Well, I still am.
I'll take it.
But there are passages that I had highlighted for a reason. So I wanted it back.
So like you
can
could
do
give
that.
it-
Transfer?
Yeah, but I also wanted, I wanted to highlight them, not to highlight them. Like I wanted to remember.
You know, you have to go through the cycle in 1 more year, and if you
That's
see
what
them,
I
if you see them
thought.
again, you could choose to
Look,
highlight.
that's
them.
what I
Two
tried
of
to tell
these?
that to my mom, but because I had already told her that I was going to give it to my brother. Plus, I had told my brother that I was going to, because he wanted it.
Right.
So I told him, I said, well, Mommy will bring the Bible. She had to unpack it and give it back.
She left?
No, she's here.
Oh, so you still have time to give
I
it to.
still have a couple weeks.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna do the transfer.
That's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So right now I'm still using, I think I got too much attached to this one. So I just took it back. And I never removed any of the stickies or whatever. I didn't.
Can you just give them the new one then?
No, the new one
It's
has
on
my
my
name
name.
on it,
Oh.
and it's a gift. Like they wrote up inside of it
They
and
sure
everything.
did.
And there's no store anymore, so you kind of stuck. Unless you're gonna go Amazon,
So, oh, that's good.
you'll figure
So
it
I
out.
just want to transfer my stuff first, and then I'll give it to her.
Sweet, sweet.
Yeah, I literally took it out of the box again. She's like, "Why are you taking out the box?" So you'll understand. Send me some
I got
things.
stuff in here that I need.
Right, I need some things out of here.
Something wrong with this feed? I'm still seeing the
Intro.
no the this. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
My iPhone wasn't responding correctly. iPhone issues. I'm gonna just say that more often. iPhone issues.
iPhone. Yeah, maybe.
He just got it. He don't know how to use it. He don't know how to use it. You're so used to the complication of Android
Android
that
is so not complicated.
compared to iPhone. Yes, it
This
is.
is very
No,
complicated.
it's not.
Anyway,
Yeah, it took me a whole day to figure out how to use this stupid thing.
Just read the manual, Jared.
No. Like, so I have had a cut, and this may not be. Yeah, I've had customized ringtones since I joined Sprint, and Sprint was selling phones that allow you to customize ringtones.
This wasn't about that life.
Oh.
And so I had to figure out how to make it happen on this. I did. I figured it out.
Just
no, you can do it. Yeah.
convert it on iTunes.
Yes, I found that out.
Jared, why didn't you just ask?
I found it out,
I could have saved you
and I did
hours.
it, and I made it work.
Okay.
Customize my ringtone, my text message alert, my voicemail message. You know, everything's back in order now.
Okay.
I downloaded all my apps because I couldn't do all of that. Just
But your pictures on is pretty.
we'll see.
Just put that out there.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, let's dive into the wood. Let's talk about it. Z, you are our point person.
You're a starter offer.
And the last time we got together in person, we talked about something other than. So I feel like there's a real backlog of things that we need to talk about.
Yeah. I have somewhat of like a stupid question,
There's no stupid question.
which I
You
probably
disagree, Avani? You disagree? About,
Yeah.
about whether there are stupid questions or not?
No, so I think I'm probably gonna continue to struggle with this for a long time, as far as I can judge.
Is it soft?
Huh?
Is it soft?
Do what?
Is it soft?
No, it's not soul. It's not. Well, soul. That's another whole problem right there. But so I struggle with righteousness. Like, what is righteousness?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Excellent question.
Where's that coming from?
It's coming from reading the Psalms. Between the Psalms and First John, I'm like, okay, like First John, around John 3. I'm like, what is righteousness? Like,
Anybody online want to take a stab at that question while we, dialogue about it? What is righteousness? Anybody want to chime in? What does the dictionary say?
That's what I'm going to look at.
just the Merriam-Webster
I'm
dictionary.
just asking. As we dialogue, I'm trying to get a feel for.
What the dictionary says.
At least let's start there, and then we can see what.
It says characterized by uprightness or morality, morally right or justifiable, acting in an upright moral way, absolutely genuine or wonderful.
Can you find a verse where the term is used so that we can look and see what words are there and what word is being translated into that word? We might get a better idea of what the question is. The question on the floor tonight so far is from Z's reading. She's curious to know what exactly is righteousness. I'm asking so that people online can join in and answer the question. Help us get the
No,
answer.
not you. As Live in her sticky notes.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. It was also in, dear children, this is in First John 3. I'm gonna try there first.
So the first John what?
3,
Mm-hmm.
around verse 7. Dear children, do not let anyone lead you astray. The one who does what is right is righteous, just as he is righteous. The one who does what is sinful is of the devil,
The one who
because the devil has been sinning from the beginning. That thing kind of scared me.
So whoever practices or acts in an upright moral way is moral, as he is acting in an upright and moral way. I just replaced the words for the definition.
The second word for righteous there is dikaios with dikaios, which means equitable in character or act. By implication, innocent, holy, absolutely or relatively. Righteous, observing divine laws. In a sense, upright righteous, which was keeping the commands of God. Innocent, faultless, guiltless. And then there's some other meanings. But because of the context, I didn't read the other meanings. So what I've discovered, because I asked myself that question sometime before, and I had to dig for the answer, is that righteousness is generally a state of being as seen by God.
So righteousness is only known by God. Is that what you mean?
It's not only known by God, but it's relative to His
How he
perspective
sees you.
of you or what you're doing. So it's being in right standing before God, meaning you are. So you can be in wrong standing before God, meaning you have issues that make you unworthy to stand before Him, and then you have being in right standing before God. And truthfully, there's really nothing you could do to stand in right standing before God,
Right.
because you get your righteousness from Jesus. It's imputed onto you, really and truly. So it's not really your righteousness, but His righteousness that allows you to be able to come in His presence and be clear. It's like, it's, I guess, yes, being found not guilty of, or not having any guilt, that allows you to be present in His presence and accepted by Him, so to speak.
I'm looking for it because I saw it too a lot in, of course, Psalms. And I was thinking to myself, so does that mean? So I can't say someone is righteous.
I mean, you can suspect, and by so the word has meaning in different contexts,
Yeah.
right? There's ultimate righteousness, which allows us to be accepted by God, But then that's why it says it's relatively or absolutely. This person is righteous relative to everybody else because this person is closer, in guilt level to someone else. I mean, let's take an example of no, I can't think of anybody. Let's go with Peter, right? Closer to his death, right? Because he was striving to be more faithful, he was relatively righteous. Now, does that give him the righteousness level that allows him to stand before God and be cleared?
No.
Not unless he's accepted Jesus as Lord. But so it's not an absolute term. It can be absolute and it can be relative.
Oh, so it doesn't really seal you.
What?
Like it doesn't really mean you're righteous.
So
it depends on what you're trying to get at.
yeah,
It depends on what you're trying to get at.
because I feel like sometimes when we hear righteousness, we think I have to follow all the rules in order to make it in,
And that
and
righteousness
that's filthy rags.
is like filthy rag. So it might be righteous, relatively,
Right.
but it's as clean as, so that's why I said righteousness can be relative or absolute.
But it's a gift
Yes.
from God. Like it's, and I it takes a lot to fully grasp that concept. Like it's a gift. There are no strings attached. I mean, there are no strings attached. It's a gift.
Yes.
So can you be righteous and at the same time, or how are you righteous and at the same time recognize that you're
So
full of sin?
technically, the Pharisees were righteous in that they kept all the laws
Right.
and they were not.
morally
Yeah,
sound.
Yeah, they were righteous relatively because there was no actionable guilt that you could tangibly say, "Oh, you did this," or "Oh, you did that."
But, their
But in
hearts
terms
were-
of their standing before
Yeah,
God,
their hearts
they
were
weren't
not-
righteous because they had this internal flaw.
It reminds me of when people ask, can good people not be of God? Like when people say every good and perfect thing comes from God, and I'm always like, meh. There's absolute good, and there's relative good,
And as good as God
and
defines
there's
good.
good as God defines good. Just because I think it's good doesn't mean it came from God, and just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're of God, and just because you're a bad person doesn't mean you're of Satan either. It's like one of those it's subjective.
It can be subjective, and it all matters who's looking and who's asking.
Right. Even relative sometimes.
Yes. Yes. You still confused, Z? You still looked confused.
No. So, well, ask that and then relate that to 1 John 3, where he's saying, the one who does what is right is righteous just as he is righteous. The one who does what is sinful is of the devil because...
Well, the devil's in the details. As he is righteous is where it's interesting because,
You have comments on your feed and I don't.
bro, step your iPhone game up. And mine's the older one.
What's going on here? Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
With the verse it says, as he is righteous. Again, from the eyes of who he is. And we're saying there's many different eyes that are looking at it. So God's righteousness is very different than what we as humans may see as righteous. Which is why getting caught up in the words doesn't matter, simply because he may have a different definition of righteousness for you versus definition for righteousness for Jared.
Mm-hmm. Which we see in Hebrews 11 when we talk about the Hall of Faith. Like, why would Jephthah get counted in the righteous group?
Or Rahab.
because he definitely wasn't righteous by how we define righteous, right? And so that's what the beauty of what Jesus has done is, because he gets us to God's definition of righteous, which we will never attain on our own.
God's definition for us.
Yes, God's definition of righteousness for us. Yes, yes.
Some of us will never be Ellen G. Whites. Some of us will always be souls.
Lost souls. Lost souls.
Not Paul. Sauls. Some of us will be Peters. You know, like it's just.
But if like, I don't know what the exact the verse is. I don't know if it's in the Bible. I've always been told this growing up. I haven't found it yet.
Hey.
But they always say God winks at ignorance. I don't know if that's in the Bible.
There is a version of that sentiment in the
In there.
Bible,
Okay.
and
So
it's in the
that's-
book of Acts. We can look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not the way that we were taught. That remember we talked about this a couple years
Yes,
ago.
we did.
It's like it's not in the way that we know it to be.
No.
But I find it like pretty amazing that, like, I could be Saul, and God's like, "Yo, you're bugging, but you're still mine. You're still covered."
Yes, but that doesn't mean you're ignorant.
Granted, but it's still just like, okay, I'm not gonna come for you because you're a little bit, you're a little bit in your ignorance. I'm calling you out of it now.
Well, let's go to Acts chapter
So when
17.
David kind of refers to himself, like to his righteousness, what is he talking about then?
He is talking about. Let's find an example of it. If you could find an example of it, we could speak more intelligently to it. But yeah, let's find an example of it. And in the meantime, let's go to Acts chapter 17. Acts chapter 17. I've been agreed from verse 24 and go all the way to verse 31. Acts chapter 17. Yeah, man.
He is.
Yeah, man.
He is the God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands can't serve his needs, for he has no needs. He himself gives light and breath to everything, and he satisfies every need. From one man, he created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and fall, and he determined their boundaries. His purpose was for the nations to seek after God and perhaps feel their way towards him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us, for in him we live, move, and exist. And some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring, and since this is true, we shouldn't think of God as an idol designed by craftsmen from gold or silver or stone. God overlooked people's ignorance about these things in earlier times, but now he commanded everyone everywhere to repent of their sins and turn to him. For he has set a day for judging the world with justice by the man he has appointed, and he proved to everyone who this is by raising him from the dead.
So how you feel about God's winking in ignorance?
So, question. Question. What if God comes, right, and he's like, guys, Sabbath was actually Tuesday. What happens then? Like, have you ever thought about that before?
I think about it all the
I
time.
have. Mhm.
But
I've thought about it.
see, that's not ignorance.
Okay.
That's evolution of time.
Okay.
So Constantine changed the calendar. The sun gods of Egypt changed the calendar. The calendar's been changed a couple times. So it's kind of like I did best with the seventh day that I knew.
Okay.
Could have started off as Monday being the first day, but at least I followed the idea of what I know. Ignorance would have been, oh, you mean the week? You talking about the work week, or you talking about the regular week? Like, like that's what's just like, is you serious? Like, I'm not weaky. That's.
But then I kind of feel like Saul was ignorant.
Was he? Or misunderstood?
think it was for me.
Ignorant of
I
what?
see ignorant of who God really was. I mean, not who God really was, but
What's the definition of the word
Jesus was,
ignorant?
I guess.
Not knowing.
Right. So not. I don't mean
not
the
being aware,
ignorant.
lack of
in,
knowledge.
not the way.
No,
we
no,
say,
unaware,
but
uninformed.
He
Yeah, that
wasn't.
way.
He wasn't aware, and so he was like, "This is what I know as right, and I'm going hard for it." And he was way off, but in his heart, he thought, "Yo,
Which
this
one was
is
this?
So Paul.
Saul Paul."
Oh, Saul Paul.
No, not the other one. The other one's
Yeah, but
way
he-
off.
Stop.
He got corrected. He was
He
brought
did.
out of his ignorance.
He did.
And it wasn't winked at either. Because he doesn't speak as if he was ignorant, per se.
No.
He doesn't. It wasn't like he felt like, oh man, I should get a blind. No, I was wrong. Like, and thanks for the light, God, because I was completely wrong.
And ignorance is not knowing. It's different from being aware and choosing to disregard.
Okay.
Because
So-
he did kill Stephen.
Yeah, so he was aware. He wasn't ignorant. He just rejected the information that was given to him.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't personally kill. He started the killing of Stephen.
Yeah, and so that's what the text is saying. In the past, God would wink at ignorance, but now He's calling everybody to repent because now He's made it so clear that
Jesus.
nobody can claim ignorance now.
Yeah. The Israelites could try to claim ignorance. No, seriously. I feel like there's some of them that quote God would overlook some ignorance. Because at that point, it's really faith driven to say there is a Messiah coming and I'm looking and it's kind of like following a God that you can't really see and he has a couple people here and there and whatever. Jesus came down and they're like, yeah, bro, that ignorance thing is gone. Like, y'all hung him up there. Like, it's dead. Even John can't call ignorance. Jesus was like, yo, bro, if you need me to come see you to know who I am, son, don't chill out. Like, just...
So did you find a verse where David is talking about his righteousness?
Well, I have one from Psalms 18.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. According to the
Psalm
cleanness of
18.
my hands, he has rewarded me. For I have kept the ways of the Lord. I am not guilty of turning from my God.
What verse is that?
This is 18, verse 20. From verse 20.
It sounds like he's talking about his good deeds. Like, I've done the right things. I kept the commandments from my youth.
Even I look at it, the Lord has dealt me according to my morality. According to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. Just,
This is David.
yeah.
What that mean?
See, here's the thing. I think David had a very interesting look with God, right? A lot of things happened with David. David was more angry before God acted versus what God did. And so, like, according to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. Some people may say, oh, David's hands are nasty and dirty. And David's like, it's possible. And I've gotten what I needed from how dirty or clean they are. I got what was justly mine based on where I am morally.
Yes, that's definitely one way of looking at it. The other way is to go all the way back to Genesis, and you think about the tree in the garden. It was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And one of the things that the enemy comes and does when he speaks to Eve is that he forces her to shift the definition of good so that she's now defining good. Because she thought the food was good to eat. Right? And so that's one of the things about the righteousness of man, of mankind versus the righteousness of God. Because now we're defining what's righteous. So if he says, the Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness, it's now him defining righteousness. He's not necessarily defining his state as being righteous before God.
He's like, my right, not according to his righteousness, but according to my righteousness.
And so that is the challenge, because we, even in our society today, and it happened last week at Water for the Thirsty in person, where, the conversation came up about that person being evil because they murdered somebody and dragged them behind the back of a truck, and that level of evil being different than something else. In that case, I am now defining righteousness.
Self-righteousness.
I'm defining what it is and what it isn't. And what we learn in the garden is that God defines righteousness. And when we start taking on that role of defining righteousness, we now become God. And what the Bible clearly says is that even on our best day, when we are most righteous by our definition, we are used panty seals.
I mean,
No, because that's really
Always, maybe.
that's really what it is.
he goes further down to even, and he's saying, God is rewarding me according to what I deserve.
I've never heard that.
But he God says in 21, I have kept the ways of the Lord. I'm not guilty of turning from God. So we, all his laws are before me. I have not turned away from his decrees. So he's now still evaluating his righteousness by how
pulling
well
a Job.
he's done the work.
Right.
He's pulling a Job.
Right.
The Lord is
I ain't do
rewarding me
nothing.
Or
according-
a Pharisee.
But
Or
then,
Pharisees.
but then
according
how
to the
does that
cleanness of my hands in his sight.
how does that end though?
Well, he goes on to say, I've been blameless before him and have kept myself from sin. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands in his sight.
He's making a
How
claim
do you
here.
Andre?
Yeah.
He's about to start complaining soon. Because he's like, you've given me your shield. He's going through a David role. You know how sometimes David starts off, all right, let's hype the Lord up, hype up. Yeah. And then, boom, dude, kill him. Why you ain't kill him yet? I'm just hyped. Like,
He's justifying his position.
right.
He's building his argument.
He's building his argument. It's like that kid waiting to ask for a sleepover. All week I tidy the room, I work, and then boom.
Like, what
But
you
then
want?
I think about like what is it that like I have been asking myself every time I read a psalm, what is it that makes all of that somebody after God's own heart?
I'm saying, see, that's
And
what kills me.
I'm trying to understand if it was that David always, I'm complaining but I'm still coming back to you, or if it was that David was just like that open, like I'm talking to you about every single thing.
For me, I think it's a combination of both. I think people underestimate when God says, "Come, let us reason together."
Mm-hmm.
I feel like God understands what He may think is best for us. We may not like. Come talk to me about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's talk. It's like West Indian kids aren't raised to chat. So are Africans. None of us, you're told don't I ask you your opinion on it. Versus God saying, talk to me about your opinion on it. And in that, I can explain to you my opinion on it. And then probably you're going to be upset for a little bit, but then you'll come back and you'll get over it. And I think that's what David and God had. And I think perfect example was with when Bathsheba and the baby had to die. And David's he's crying, like, are you really going to kill my kid? And, is that, really what you're going to do? And then... Right. And I did what I thought I had to do, blah, blah, blah. And then the baby dies. He's like, well... all right, well, I didn't win that argument. On to the next thing, It's just like, I think God really appreciates the realness of David, because at the end of the day, even though David was whatless at times, he still, I believe, put God first. Mm-hmm. I may have chosen myself sometimes, but I knew you were sovereign at the top, and I'm coming back. And I always came back. And that's why sometimes when people are like, oh, you'll be sinless and that stuff, I always think we're not sure we're defining that correctly. Because one of God's favorites, not to say that gives me an excuse to be whatless, but one of God's favorites was always tripping, and God's still like, so you're not that in yet?
But they're all like that though. Like the entire Bible, that's the theme. Everybody's bugging. Oh, I'm coming back, but we're all falling.
Some people were bugging differently. Like Lecrae has a line in one of his songs. He says, "I'm running after his throne," and so David never ran after the throne.
True.
He might have disobeyed and acted the fool, but he was never asserting himself to be on par or equal with God. He was always in a subservient position, even when he acted the fool, or it was brought his attention that he acted the fool. he was always in that servant mindset, servant posture.
I like to
And,
think.
and that's what sorry, well, that's one of the things you see like that I saw when I was reading Samuel and Kings this time, is that when the author when the author picks the stories to contrast David and Saul, you see Saul running after the throne, and David always being subservient to the throne. Yes, both of them were flawed, and made some very bad mistakes, and or did some things that were not godly or godlike. But there was a marked difference in how they related to God. And then when you add on somebody like Nebuchadnezzar onto that, and you see how God dealt with him when he came to the throne, and then how he restored him when he knew his position. You see that kind of, and then when the Bible talks about when Paul writes about Jesus in Philippians, I think it's 2. We should have the mindset of Jesus who took the very nature of a servant. It kind of lines up to what you see of David. So it's that posture that I believe, borrowing from Sharika, using the term I believe, makes him, a man after God's own heart.
It's also like when you're, let's say a GPS. I like to live my life with GPS. I'm kind of following God's little GPS, but I get distracted by the flowers on the road.
Were you Pharaoh?
Yeah. In many cases, I stop, I smell the roses, I hang out with my boy over here, I do that. I'm still going on the I still am not saying this is the wrong track. Versus some people don't even believe this is the right track, and they're going from a means of, I was trying to explain this to my friend, surrendering versus submitting. You're dragging me along, I don't even think I'm supposed to be going this way, but I feel I should be going this way, but oh, look at that. And that was David. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll come back. Oh, gotta go. Type of thing.
To answer your question, how you feel about righteousness now?
So I can't know that I'm right. I'll never know that I'm righteous.
Well, here's the beauty of Jesus. This is the beauty of Jesus.
Okay. That it's a gift.
When you accept Him as Lord,
It comes with it.
you get righteousness. You get to be able to stand before God as if you were not guilty.
But I can't tell somebody that I'm righteous regardless of the fact that I've taken
it's not a
gift.
It's
feeling.
not your righteousness.
Right.
Right.
But it's also
You
not a feeling.
get righteousness, and you are considered righteous because of what Jesus has done.
So I was talking to somebody like somebody that I work with, right? And she was saying to me,
Sorry, that righteousness is by God's definition.
not by us.
Yeah.
definition.
So we're talking about, you can't say that you can confidently assert that you have righteousness to stand before
But I
God
should be
by
able
God's
to-
definition because of what Jesus does, and not because of what I am doing.
No, not what I am doing, but by God. So I was having this conversation with this girl, right? And she says to me, "Well, see, I don't like it when people bring God into it because people will say because they are a child of God, they should know that they are righteous. Because you're a child of God, you should be righteous." But then it's the same person and she was telling me about somebody who acted mean towards her, and she said the person then turned around and said, "Well, you wouldn't do that because if you were righteous, like because you're a child of God, then you would know not to do that type situation."
They're mixing the definitions.
And that's what made me say, and I even said to her, I said, "Let me look, I can't, I'm not righteous, so I don't know." You know what I mean?
Righteousness is not an adjective. It doesn't describe.
We've been confusing it.
We
for a
make
long
it seem
time.
like it's
Long
it's
time.
an adjective. It cannot describe who you are or put you in a box over here, and that's when you start to become pious and feel like you're better. We're trying to rank it.
Or worse.
Or well, no, I know when I'm worse. I don't know about that. But pretty sure of that. We try to rank it. Like humans are obsessed with rank, and we feel, well, if you're righteous, you wouldn't do that because that describes who you are, and under that definition, you wouldn't do those things. And it's like, bruh, righteousness is a state of being. It's a state.
It's I just cussed you out. God's just like, I would cover that.
It's a state of just
Get your life, but I'm gonna cover that.
you're good. I mean, we spend so much time trying to rank that we miss out on the relationship.
And then once you recognize, though, but once you do recognize, like, I'm out here wilding, and God's just like, yo, you're covered. It makes me want to go, let me act right.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And you can't mix the two.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm acting right just for God to look at me right, it's kind of just like,
Yeah.
okay, that's cute.
Well, that's what he
Doesn't
said. He's
matter.
like, yeah, some people follow the rules from their youth, from them
Right.
born. They'll be morally sound people. You don't know me, I don't know you, bro. Thanks for following the rules,
Right.
but
That's exactly what
And
the
you're
verse
gonna
says.
be
Spin
vexed in
hell.
hell that you wasted your life following rules, but you didn't really get it.
Because you didn't know, dude.
With your,
The dude says, I don't even know who are you again?
my
my
pastor
goodness.
new phone,
from
who
New
this?
York-
Like,
My pastor from New York used to always be like, listen, some of y'all gonna be real vexed in hell with your long skirt and your vegan meals. Need to get it together.
it's a rank. They're
Yeah.
ranking it.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why there's stories like this are in there, and why the author of Hebrews list out the people that they did. Like when you list out those people, you know, and you read who those characters were.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I remember Chris Gibbons blew my mind when he helped me understand who Jephthah was. You ever see New Jack City?
No.
Yeah.
Should I watch it? Go watch it?
Yeah, we should watch it. It's a good movie to watch. I mean,
Okay.
I shouldn't say it's a good movie.
I'm gonna say, I'm
I
not
was gonna,
sure.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That's a.
It-
It's
It's alright.
a
It's a well done
teachable
movie.
moment.
Yes, yeah.
Teachable moment.
Okay.
And as far as entertainment and movies go, it's yeah. But anyway, the lead character Nino Brown. That's who Jephthah was, and he never really came out of that. That's who he was
The whole time.
the whole time. How do you become righteous as a drug dealer and a thug? How can you be considered righteous in that regard? But what you saw in his life was his posture towards God. Was even in his thuggery, he had a certain posture towards God, which comes back to your point about ignorance. He was ignorant, but in his ignorance, he had enough awareness to maintain a posture towards God. So if more light is given to him, with that same posture, he fixes it.
But I feel like if we were to really like fully grasp the concept of righteousness, like we really wouldn't be doing all these forceful things and overcomplicating our lives. I feel like God sometimes looked at us and goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? All I said was love each other. What are you doing?
Right.
But I don't know.
Ah, good word, Ron. And I finally got it. It came through. He says, I feel it best that we view righteousness as a judgment. And since judgment belongs to God and righteousness is from God, we have no claim to either. He's the one who assesses what righteousness is or isn't. But because of the nature of the word, we kind of relatively use it in our context to describe.
It doesn't actually be righteous. Be
What?
righteous.
It's so she was bringing up what
Where
First
does it
John
say that?
3.
Yeah, we be making up stuff as Africans and West Indians. I promise you.
Be holy, maybe.
I could remember seeing that one.
Nah.
Not doing right.
I was like, hold on. Does the Bible
Be
say?
ye righteous.
Be-
as
be-
the Father in heaven is righteous.
It's like a whistling woman and a crowing hen. I swore for a
Like,
while that
hold
was in the
up.
Bible.
Does the Bible say that?
Google it. Google it and see what you find.
No, it says be ye holy.
I'm not sure. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying, where did you see it?
We're just saying we read it like 4 times and we
I
haven't necessarily come back.
And that doesn't mean we.
That doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we didn't see it. Like,
Mine always used to be like the Bible says cleanliness cleanliness is next to godliness. And when I realized it wasn't, my response to her was, "That's not biblical." And she was, "You're disrespectful."
Of course.
Like, that is-
I'm not saying
That's
it's
not in
not
the
there.
Bible.
I'm just saying we didn't run into it yet. That's all I'm
Maybe
saying.
one day.
Maybe
we
one
may have overlooked
day.
it, skipped over
Right.
it, missed it.
It might be in the Psalms.
You know,
and
we might-
have like
It's in one of them chronological name things.
it might be in there. It might be in there. It
We
doesn't
might
mean
get
it's
it
not
on round 6.
there. Right. But so far,
Say this 5 years ago.
so far we don't have it.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. Would you have just like? Oh,
No, you got the same amount.
I got that too.
Like, the algorithm's
You good?
running.
I think I'm good.
How you feel about it? What is righteousness?
My judgment. I'm gonna go with one.
I like Jared's
That's judgment.
definition
I'm
of
gonna
it.
leave it to God. I just wish I had known that. I guess in talking to her and as she was talking in my head, I was like,
You work with her, right?
Here's a piece that is important for Christians. Because of what Jesus has done, you can feel confident that you are righteous before God.
No.
If you stay faithful to Him as Lord, if you accept Him as Lord, you can be confident of your righteousness before God.
but you won't always be if you don't choose to stay in that posture, no?
If you choose to leave the relationship,
Because
he
if
takes
you-
his righteousness with him.
It's like a
Kinda like a
prenup.
marriage.
It's like a
It's like a
prenup.
prenup.
You out, I take my stuff. What you came in here is what you leave with. Okay. Putting that out there. You don't get no extra stuff.
But that is the challenge of choice, right? That is the challenge of choice. It's something that is perpetual and ongoing. And I think it was in Ezekiel, and I think I
It
remember.
works like salvation.
No. I didn't say salvation works like that. Salvation is a whole different thing. I mean, it's related, but
Because
it's
you're
not.
not
It's
once
not one and the
saved,
same.
always saved.
Huh?
So basically, because
So if
It's not-
if I'm once saved and I'm out here wilding, I'm always saved?
no, because
Listen.
it's not once saved, always saved.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because even in Ezekiel, I remember seeing it in Ezekiel that if you're a bad man
Yes.
who
If you start making
if
right
you start
decisions.
making right decisions, then you know you're good. And then the person who was good decides to turn around, they're dying. Like you're
Correct.
going down. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
that's what I was
that
looking
is some
for.
scary stuff.
Right. So
that
that's-
right there.
It's choice. To stay fit, you gotta keep exercising and eating right. It's not a destination you arrive at.
So you might as
It's
well
a
just
state
be
of
bad.
being.
You might as well just be chapter.
If you gonna be bad, so commit to the bad, bro.
Right. Go into hell.
Like
and
go
stop.
hard. Don't stay in the middle. It's not working. You still gonna go in the same place. You might as well go hard.
We might as well have fun.
You might, make it worth it. It's like when I used to get beaten. It's gonna be worth the beating.
So I'm just gonna do
Doing
it.
everything. I'm not coming. If you're gonna get beaten at 9:01 or 10:30, you might as
Same
well
thing.
stay till
So
10.
when you get that licks, you can look back and say, "I thought
It's worth the licks.
I was sweet."
I can
still."
tell y'all used to get a lot of lips.
Oh
Well,
my
I-
goodness.
not me.
No,
Not
I
me.
did.
I get licks for schoolwork. I never get licks for being bad. I don't remember many times getting licks for being bad. I think that happened maybe a couple times, and I
I was too sneaky.
Avoid that.
I got them
to be
for being
caught.
sneaky.
You can't catch me all the time.
yeah, I saw you with the
There were
vegetables.
times-
I saw you.
You're not gonna catch me all the time.
Listen,
Sure, sure you can talk to me.
the few times I got caught. Got it.
You got licks over vegetables?
Man, no. They were never frozen.
Oh my god. See?
Talk to me, sure you can.
Nah, I was being harassed.
You asked.
I was harassing my friends this week on the idea of love. I was harassing them.
John.
And John 1 John 3.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm a person who likes to read memes and look at gifs, right? Like if it's not in a meme or a gif, I'm really not trying to read it. And you see, you run into a lot of these memes or gifs where it's like, yo, people showing you your true colors, walk away. That person don't give you what you want, walk away. Or I don't have time for this, or blah blah blah. And so one of my homeboys posted, he was like, well, people show you their true colors, go off of action, not intent. So I hit him up and I was like, explain that to me.
Is this person a believer?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
This person is an RPC member.
No, that's,
And
Just wondered if there was a believer.
Nah, call them out, son. I'm calling y'all out.
Like I call it people.
Forget it. It's a new month.
Alright.
Come for me. I'm sending for you. And I was like, yo, explain that to me. And they're like, yo, you gotta watch how people, continuous behavior and intent. And I was like, oh, okay. That's cool. I said, what's your intent? He was like, what do you mean? I was like, in life, what's your intent? Yo, I'm trying to do this right.
Jerika, stop.
What are your actions? I was like, should God look at your actions or your intent? He's like, yo, that's not the same thing. I'm just saying. I'm just asking. I was like, I'm not saying I'm doing it right. I'm simply asking the question, are you okay with looking at God and saying, yo, look at my actions, not my intent? He's like, yo, people so you telling me I should just accept people's foolishness? That's not what I said either.
That's a question.
I didn't say that. I simply said, if you're going off of look at actions and not intent, are you willing for God to treat you that way? And not only just God, everybody else to treat you that way. So I don't have to bring my bag. You should have said something. Pharmacist is here.
I'm back in the game.
I feel like my face is tensing up.
It's possible. Or it could just be in your head.
Our apologies. Our computer rebooted and cut our feed, and we had to wait on it to do what it was doing.
Get it together over there.
In Jesus' name.
Hey.
Amen. So yeah, Sharika was before we lost our feed. Sharika was helping us understand a little bit about love, but she was giving us a backstory to a conversation she was having.
Basically, the conversation was just people measuring themselves versus how they'd like to be measured. And I feel like 1 John 3 just goes into this whole what it means to be a child of God or children of God and what that love looks like. And I'm not saying that I have it. I'm simply saying that we got it twisted. And it kind of haunted us a little bit in the last Water for the Thirsty in person. And then this week, it was just kind of like, we really don't know what love is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced that our definition of love is flawed.
Yep. This is very flawed. Very.
And I'm winking at ignorance because if we have a bad definition of it, then yes, you will act accordingly. But I think we said this like 2-3 years ago. We really don't love people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd be like, I love you, and then when you think about it, it's like, I really don't. Like,
Do something to me. Watch how I love you.
not even. Like, am I dying for you, Z? Nah. Like, I mean, like, it's
Maybe if you're my child and there's some vested interest in it for me.
so funny you say that. I had a conversation this week about getting me my 1.6 bill if I won the lottery, right? And I was saying to somebody, I was like, yo, if you're ready to win the lottery, you have to understand the price of each person's head in your life. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, if somebody takes my mom and ransoms her for $1 billion, is my mother worth $1 billion? Not at 55. So, are you?
Fortunately, she's not on tonight.
Right. I was like, man, if she's watching this,
She should know. Like, I mean, but those are the type of conversations you really have to have with yourself to be like, how much is this person really worth to me? Is my grandfather used to say this. Some people have to die in the name of he's like, in the name of good. Some people have to dead in the name of good. Saying there are casualties that have to just be taken in order to win the final prize. And it's like, that is really where you define where you love somebody. That hurts. But are you willing to say, yo, Ma, you gotta go in the name of setting up everybody else in this family for generations and generations and generations until God comes? Are you worth it? Are you willing to sacrifice it? Probably not. And at that point, you define whether or not you really love somebody, and it hurts you because you're trying to justify it. Like, well, no, it's different. Da, 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 da. Nah, when you really love somebody, you're really willing to sacrifice everything.
Lay down your life.
They don't love like that.
We don't love at all. I like you. Like,
Strong like.
a really strong like towards you.
I like what you bring to me.
Right.
I like your value to me. So it's really me I like, not you.
I
Because
might like you.
when you stop bringing value to me,
But I might like you.
Yeah, no.
Like, for example, like, you know, people don't like when I say it. Like, I truly respect Hitler. I mean, I really do. Like, you don't like when I say it, but, and he brought no value to me. Like, I wouldn't survive in his camp. But I like the dude. Like, I liked his mindset. We can talk about that offline, and y'all not gonna convince me otherwise. But I don't love nobody. Like, I don't. And this hurts. It hurts because it's like, yo, God is saying you'll love them how you want me to love you.
no, how I've already loved you.
No, what he's saying is if you don't love them that way, I'm going to love you the way you love them.
Yes, I'm just saying that as well.
That's the hurtful part. The way you treat them is the way I'm going to treat you. So figure that out. But we don't like that. And because we're like, oh, well, God is more rational and he knows more and he can figure out what I meant and what I this and like that. And are we capable is a whole different conversation, but the journey to that is what we need to be on.
So here's the part that you're not going to
I
like.
don't even know why you
about
asked that
capable.
question.
About
There was a
capable.
whole sermon
Luke,
about that.
Luke chapter, I think it's Luke chapter 17 or is it Luke chapter 10? Luke chapter 17 verse 10. Here we go. So, go ahead, Z, read 17, 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
Your question about are we capable? 17, 1 to 10.
Jesus
Lord.
said to his disciples, things that cause people to stumble are bound to come, but woe to anyone through whom they come. It would be better for them to be thrown into the sea with a millstone tied around their neck than to cause one of these little ones to stumble. So watch yourselves. If your brother or sister sins against you, rebuke them. If they repent, forgive them. Even if they sin against you 7 times in a day and 7 times come back to you saying, I repent, you must forgive them. The apostles say to the Lord, increase our faith. He replied, yeah.
Is this possible? Or increase our faith to make it possible. Right?
Yeah.
Alright. Now watch Jesus' response to them.
He replied, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. Suppose one of you...
Is that related to the first part?
Yeah.
So if you have faith, then you could uproot a mustard tree.
Small as a mustard seed.
Right. And you could uproot a mulberry tree and
into
move
the
it.
sea.
Yeah. Then,
Planted in the sea.
yeah.
You hear that?
Then that same amount of faith should allow you to...
Be capable of...
Alright. Go ahead. He continues.
I'm going to go with Jerry on the ignorance part.
What I
Straight
don't
up.
know, I don't have
know.
to abide by.
I have no idea. Suppose one of you has a servant plowing or looking after the sheep. Will he say to the servant when he comes in from the field, come along now and sit down to eat? Won't he rather say, prepare my supper, get yourself ready, and wait on me while I eat and drink? After that you may eat and drink. Will he thank the servant because he did what he was told to do? So you also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should say, we are unworthy servants. We've only done
I swear
our
my
duty."
mom was this person.
Ignorance.
Like, Ma, I got a 98. You want, what else you supposed to
That
get?
sounds like wrong. Are you serious?
You want to show her what it's...
That's what you're supposed to do.
You
Right.
missed
What
2
else do you
points.
You didn't even get what you're supposed
I
to
just
do.
love the story he tells because it's like, that's so unfair. I was out
That
working
is so
all
unfair.
day. And then you want me to come and serve you again?
What else were you supposed to do?
Exactly.
And you don't even say thank you?
What else were you supposed to do?
Exactly.
But bro, you still could say thank you.
No, I don't, because you're a servant. I mean, I might like you enough, but don't expect it from me.
But this servant isn't paid servant. This servant,
It's a slave.
Just
slave.
do what you do.
It's a
What you
slave.
came to do.
I might like you enough to say thank you every so often, but you don't expect anything from me. I didn't tell you that your load was less today, and so therefore you don't do what you're supposed to do. That's your problem. Sounds like a personal issue. It's harsh. It's really harsh But it goes back to, as you said, that point of, so you want me to be easier on you because so and so box you on the right side today instead of the left that they always use? Like, is because it caught you off guard today? Is that why we're not gonna forgive, type of thing?
Yeah. And that's coming from the master. I always used to read that as like three different, never saw them related or connected. I was like, when I saw them connected, I was like, dang.
Man, that's harsh.
It makes me wonder, if Jesus, think about the dynamic between Jesus and God. If Jesus looked at God the way we look at God, as in good things are reward and other things are consequence I don't deserve. Jesus came down here and he could have been like, God, you don't love me because you're watching me die like this. It's one thing for me to get hanged. It's nothing for me to get ridiculed. It's another thing for me to watch my friends turn their back on me. It's all of that extra stuff I didn't sign up for. I signed on to go on a tree. So you want me to feel bad for you because this is a part of the process? Because he didn't sign up for all that. He signed up to be crucified. All this extra stuff came with it. And he could easily say, hold on then. Wait.
I want
This.
I want this.
Gabriel, come true. Listen to me. Wipe this whole thing out. And that's the thing. Like, we
see that one right there?
take your
Him
time.
right there?
Take your time with that one. Like, but we look at it as, oh man, I joined the Christian train, and we get a couple licks along the way, and it's like, wait a minute, and you're like, so you want an exception?
That's what you meant.
Like,
And this is one because he says this is your responsibility as a follower. And this is not to say to take abuse.
Right.
That's not what this is saying.
no, not at all.
But it is your responsibility as a follower to continually, as Shrika pointed, to be committed to the relationships.
I didn't say I was there, I said I reach it.
Yeah, we understand it. That don't mean we're doing it.
That means we're doing it. A lot of people don't understand it though.
Henry,
That's the
it
thing.
is Luke 17, 1 to 10. Luke 17, 1 to 10 is the verse we read.
A lot of people aren't accepting it. They're thinking that the dynamic is different. Human to human is different than the dynamic of
God.
Lord to,
How you think that after reading the parable of the unmerciful servant? How do we as believers come to that conclusion after reading a story like that?
You know what I think it is? I don't think people realize the depth of made in his image. A lot of people have this facade that God doesn't have the same characteristics or qualities or emotions that we have. And so therefore the dynamic must be different.
Right. What we made in this image. Oh wow. That's gonna be my takeaway. Sorry. I'm already cataloging it.
Like,
That's going to be it.
it's hard. And when you realize that, you're like, oh shoot. You do experience those things. Jared used to hit me with that all the time. I used to hate him for that, right? Because people used to do me dirty. This is back when I used to really complain. And he'd be like, oh, that must be how God feels when you don't pay him any money. And I'd be like, you're a jerk. Then I'll just disappear on him. 3 days later, he'd be like, are you okay? I'd be like, no. But it brings it to reality, like, oh, that must be how God feels.
Yeah.
But we never think of it like that.
No. And here's why it's so much of a challenge for me, because this is the foundation and the central tenet of Christianity. This is the essence of the thing. And we've been in this thing for donkey years, and this is like new light for us. We define Christianity like righteousness by everything else other than what God defines it as. Man said, by this they'll know that you're my disciples, not by your vegan diet.
Because the stuff that we're doing now, it doesn't require my heart change. It doesn't require heart change. It just requires a little, hey, I eat leaf. Can't have any goat. It's alright. But the other stuff, it requires some real digging and pruning and all the other good stuff that's painful.
I always say, you know, when you're developing the relationship, when the sins are harder to commit and not as great when you're done.
Say that again.
You know you're developing a relationship when the sins are harder to commit
Oh,
and not as great when
Right.
you're done.
I would say that's one level of it.
Well, I should say, the reason why I say that is because, similar to what Ebony was saying, certain things I can, like, I'm not going to kill, I'm not going to steal. I think those are things I know from youth. But I can rationalize a good sin. And when the rationalization of it still does not, like, I still feel bad about it in the middle, but I'm committed, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do this. That's when it's just like, oh damn,
Admit it.
I'm committed. But throughout the commitment, it's not as sweet. It's not as good. It's just not as... Because that's not of yourself. That's when you're like, oh wow, somebody's kind of... I'm connected to somebody. I'm disappointing someone. Disappointing my friend.
I'm coming to realize that part of the reason why this is so important is because if we think about what is expected to happen, we're going to go for a while and then come back to live together as a group, as a family, as a community. We had to be able to navigate the space. That's the whole reason for it. I made you to be in community, and when you started defining righteousness by your own assumptions, it affected the ability to live together in community, and you start killing each other and hurting each other. And now you have all this chaos in the world because one, you're defining righteousness by your own merit or your own ideology, and you're allowing it to affect the way you do relationships. So I send my son to show you what it looks like, to give you an example, to show you it could be done, to give you power to do it, and I'll give you time to figure it out. And that's just kind of what it is. And those who have experienced it, they experience that forgiveness and that compassion and that mercy and that grace. Those are the ones I'm asking, hey, just model what you've experienced and show the rest of them so that we can all do this together. Because the goal is not really just for the Christians or whoever the special group is to be the one, to be a special elite group. The goal is for them to demonstrate how this thing looks for all of us. Because if you study it, and my guys watch movies from all kind of different cultures, particularly Indian movies, because when I was growing up, we only had one station, and every Sunday they used to have Indian movies on, and I get accustomed to them, and I like them, and they'd be interesting. So that was these Indian.
Listen to Bollywood.
Yes, I am. Actually. Krishna Kapoor. So sweet. Oh. Anyway, but what you find is that movies in every culture and every time in any setting, they all have the same human relating elements that allow us to be able to relate to them. It's what connects us, these relationships. So you could put a story in any setting. You can even make it a story about stuffed animals. As long as they relate into one another, we can connect, because that's what unifies us. One of the things that unifies us and binds us together, and why this is so important, so that it doesn't really matter whether you dress this way or you eat that way. It's more important the way that we relate, because that and how we respect God. Because if we don't respect God, then we will start doing whatever I want, and I wouldn't really care how it affects you or how it doesn't affect you or what it does to you. And that's kind of what it is. And if you think about it logically like that, that makes sense. That's a good approach to solving this problem of, authority, rebellion, and relationship. I mean, what else can you do to solve that problem? Particularly when the individuals have choice, and you have that predicament of choice. Yeah. So.
The predicament of choice.
Ebony?
Well, I don't have my Bible with me today, so I don't remember my stuff that I wrote down. Hold, please.
Z, in the meantime?
Yeah. Again, First John. I went with another concept. Perfect love drives out fear.
Where is that?
1 John 4.
4:18.
Mm-hmm.
118. Wait.
4.
1 John.
4.
4:18.
Hold,
John
please.
4.
Hold, please.
What's your question?
How do we say? So I kind of, even looking at my little notes at the bottom of the Bible, where it says, when believers love God because He first loved them, their fear is driven out. Love for God and fear of the judgment cannot coexist.
So,
The one.
I'm sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Oh, the one who fears is not made perfect in love. When the realization of God's love penetrates our minds and spirits, we're made perfect in love, and fear of judgment is removed.
When we were doing the verse, so I started reading 18, and immediately what I thought about was, if I'm serving God because I'm afraid of hell, I don't really love God. I just don't want to go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
So, back to what Sharika said earlier.
Mm-hmm. Way to go, Avenue.
Because I'm committed to certain things, which I understand what you're saying, but because I'm committed to certain things, certain sins, it's not like I committed and I'm not scared that, what am I doing? Because there's this element now that says, a long time ago I would have been like, you know what I mean? Wouldn't even have thought about it. Like, okay, whatever. Wouldn't even have thought about it. Wouldn't even have thought, oh, it's a sin. But now it's like, this is not cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel good. Yet still, I'm going to do it. There's an element of fear there. There's
Yeah,
an
what?
fear of, maybe not judgment, but there's an element of fear of disappointing somebody.
So
Fear
isn't
of-
that love though? Like if I'm my favorite sin, right? If I'm about to do my favorite sin and I'm like, I really want to, but I know I'm gonna. I know I'm gonna hurt Bae's feelings. It's different than, all right, fine, I won't do it because I'm gonna catch licks.
I'm somewhere in the middle.
But then
Depends
some
on the sin.
days you don't, because there's still that element
Yeah.
of, I'm scared that I'm going to disappoint Bae, so I'm not going to do it.
So
So I
it's
don't
not
do it
even
because
so. Okay,
I'm
let me change
scared.
it from Bae then. Julian. All Vanessa has to do is go, Julian, and he'll know. Oh, let me act right. There is fear there, but the fear is, what's behind the fear is love and respect. Because he could easily be like, I understand now.
Now, when I tell Khalil not to do something, and he still does it, then when I come inside the house and I say, did you
First of all,
do X?
stop hitting my child.
Listen, I haven't even gotten there
Who
yet.
does not hear must
Feel.
feel.
Stop hitting my child.
So,
Listen.
y'all hear how I hear it? Alright.
Mm-hmm. So, when I walk in and I say, Khalil, did you do X? Immediately he remembers what I told him, right?
He
And
just
he
has
knows.
bad memory.
Now
It
he's
doesn't mean he
scared.
doesn't love
Now
you.
he's scared because he knows what's coming after that. Not because he doesn't respect me, but because he knows what's coming after that.
Are you questioning Khalil's love?
No, that's why I say not because he doesn't respect or love me, but because he's like, she about to get me.
You have children like Sharika who be like, I'm about to catch a lick, I'm about to go all out and just get to be in for it anyways. And then you have
Make it
children
worth
like
it.
Khalil who be like, oh man,
Make it worth
it's
it.
gonna beat me.
I mean, I hate to
It's
say
a big
it. There's certain,
difference.
listen, if I'm going to be honest with y'all, there's certain sins that I commit, and I'd be like, the chances of me waking up tomorrow and repenting is high. Bet I'm going to do it. Like, that sounds so horrible, but
Sharika, I'm with you.
like, the chances of me waking up
You
tomorrow
know
are
you're gonna
high.
have to. like
I'ma fix this tomorrow, but today
I can't.
I'm getting it in. Getting it in today. That ain't got nothing to do with how I feel about you.
You know what's the hard part about this is that we will not accept that from anybody we in relationship with.
No, we
will
won't.
not accept that from anybody we in relationship with.
We won't. But I'm just being. I'm putting myself out there. That
You can't say that.
tomorrow
Jared.
day.
What?
you on your own with that, man.
No,
What?
I mean it's
You
not
will
that-
take that from some man?
No, I'm not saying that. I say you can't say that because it just feels so like I know it's not different, but it feels so different.
No, it's like saying, it's not that I don't love you,
Right.
but I had this urge and I had to
And
satisfy the itch, and I'll be
let
back.
your man tell you that. What is your thought to him about how he feels about you?
Look.
Let him say that.
Understand my intent versus
Baby,
my
I love
action.
you. I love you, baby.
No,
I
sir.
love you, baby.
My intent.
Bye-bye.
No, see that's the
Exactly.
thing. My intent. I
Exactly.
had right intentions. What do you mean?
I just weak in the moment.
I
Like,
just had a moment.
Did you see the tail
You
of that?
did see. You know what? Let me show you a picture. Right here.
See that? You see it?
Tell me it ain't nice. I mean, it's real. We do it. We have that full conversation with ourselves. If you don't, you're lying to yourself. Put it in the group that you don't think about stuff like that.
So the fear that is here is not just general fear, but it's fear of the consequences,
Yeah.
and it's being in relationship because you are fearful of the consequences,
God won't come.
and not because you are genuinely interested in the person and concerned about them.
Right.
It's almost like I'm gonna act right because if I don't, you'll cut off my card and I'll end up having to move and I'll lose all this money. You know, it's like McGill who wait until she meet the mark and then she divorced the man. So she put up with all the thing in the relationship
Just to get that what
to
I
get
needed.
to that mark. You know,
I gotta stay for this long to get something. It doesn't matter if I like you or not. I'm going to put up with everything to this point to get what I want. It had nothing to do with I liked you or not. I was my own selfish intent.
And then if we go back to using Khalil as an example, I think if Khalil didn't love you or didn't love you, since we're talking about love, then I don't think his attitude towards the thing that you asked him to do would be what it is. I think it'd be like, I'm not doing it.
My
Oh,
love.
You could beat me all you want, so I'm not doing it.
there are
Or
the
I'm
kids like that, but you have the kids who are punishment driven, motivated by fear of the punishment. There are those people who they're not strong-willed or bad mind like Sharika. They toe in the line because they just don't want to get licks. They don't necessarily have any genuine love or respect for their parents. They just have more love and respect for their behind, and they don't want it to be sore.
They fear the beating. I see how big your hand is, and I don't want to be touched. I
And
don't
because,
like it.
and because they're literally scared messless, you know.
It's like when you sin sometimes. Sharika Winter. Sometimes in the sin, like, yo, God, hold off. Because if you come right now, I'm going to hell. But I'm not that. I'm going to roll the dice.
Sharika be opening up
Keep
all
going.
kinds of judgment from Facebook people.
But what, I mean, it's just honestly, like,
This
you
is how
subconsciously
we
have that conversation
Right.
with yourself, like, don't come right now. Like, let me just finish this off. We can talk about it. And then you can come. Like, come tomorrow when I've repented. After I've read my One for the Thirsty in the morning, and this is a great day. All right, I'm ready. Like, like, that's what we do. That's what we do. But as I said, I'm that kid that's like, if I finish by 11 and then come 11:30,
It's a wrap.
I got 30 minutes to be like the thief on the cross. Faith forgets me. I'm good. Like, that's horrible. Like, I'm sorry, God. I mean, he know I be having these conversations with him. But if we real with ourselves, that's what that fear is. That fear of the punishment, not necessarily the fear of disappointment. Two different fears. And it's hard to tell from the outside people's motive.
Very hard.
And that's why I tell people all the time, be conscious of when things happen to you and how you're hurt, because you don't know the motive.
And then is it possible to do both?
Do both in terms of what?
I love Jesus and I don't like heat.
I mean,
I
yes,
love me some Jesus, but I don't do heat.
but this perfect love is mature love. It gets to the place where it's no longer
no fear.
motivated by the fear of the judgment. Eventually that passes because perfect love drives out fear. So now my motivation for doing this thing is really just genuine love and respect for you. I know you don't like it. I don't want you to be unhappy, so I'm gonna do it.
But while I'm doing it, what am I doing it from? I'm just trying to find out where my mindset is. Then, especially if I know better, like I really like. Sometimes I'll be like, God,
See,
you gotta help
all
me.
have
Like I
sinned
don't
and
understand.
come short of the
I
glory of
get
God.
that, but I'm just saying, what is that motivation? I was listening to somebody and they were saying,
That's
We
like
just-
asking
we
why do men cheat?
yeah, why do they?
Stop.
Are you
We're not having
serious?
this
Sex is
conversation.
sex.
For a whole variety of reasons. And what
a
I'm
good
saying is
thing.
it's a whole variety of reasons and you can't nail
was
down
bored.
any one.
I got distracted. She said, text me at the right time.
She fell.
I wanted to vex you.
You wasn't doing what you were supposed to.
Right.
Coughed.
Oh,
She just looked at me.
it's about that time of the
She
year.
walked past.
Like, it's just
Well, let's ask it this way. Why do women cheat?
because it was that time of the year.
Thank you.
Because
I
I,
wouldn't
felt
know.
like it.
I'm not like these two.
Because I wanted to.
But do you understand where I'm coming from?
Women,
You're motivated by
Women
different
have more-
things.
Yeah.
And the same thing doesn't happen every day.
No.
It does not.
That's the point.
And also,
But I will say, in all of it, is selfishness.
but do you think? So I get that there is some selfishness.
Some?
Okay, I get that there is 1,000% selfishness. But then, do you think that God allows certain things to try to?
Try to
Give yourself your
To
own
break
opinion.
you out of it.
to break you out of selfishness.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
I was listening to this girl and she was talking about how we stay in sin because we like it, not because if we really wanted to get rid of it and we asked God to get rid of it, do we really think that that's impossible for him? Because it's not.
Nope.
It's just we're making the choice to stay in that sin because we like it and it becomes our God. So
So
I was
then I have a
like,
question.
what? Did you just say my sin is my God?
Question.
Yeah.
Essentially, it is.
You obey it, right?
Well, question.
When it calls you, when it calls and God says don't
Here
go.
am I.
When
I'm
it
just
calls
choosing.
and God says don't go, what do you do?
I rationalize.
I rushed to it.
So it's your God.
Yeah, I was like, I'm about to turn off this radio.
Ignorance.
Did you really just say that?
It's not the ignorance.
What I don't know.
Ignorant. Yep. I'm about to say ignorant because she did not just say that. I was like, did she-
You can't turn it off after she said it.
I'm
No, I don't need to know her
lying.
reasoning. I don't need to know her reasoning. Now I can say I didn't know what she meant.
Exactly. It was just.
I only heard part.
I only heard part of it. I want half a sin. Half a sin, son. Half.
Yeah, I was like, why was I listening to this anyway? Why?
That's why I listen to Daisy and Kanye.
When she said,
You can't go wrong with that. You gonna say a question?
So I was gonna ask, do we believe, or do you guys think that if I was to go to God and be like, God, I really, really like doing crack, can you please take that away from me? Is God gonna be like, yeah, sure?
No.
He doesn't do it for
Not
everybody and
necessarily.
everything. Because Paul talks about having this thorn. He says 3 times, I asked you to take away, and God said, my grace is sufficient for you. God's priority is, as I understand it, that that we mature in terms of this love thing for him. And so sometimes pulling something out does not help you mature.
Right.
It may handicap you more than it may help you.
Okay.
And he's the one who makes that determination. And for some people, they will wake up tomorrow and they will lose the feeling. They'll have no more desire or interest. And then other of us will be fighting with stuff for the rest of our lives because
He's gonna find something to replace the crack.
he wants us to be dependent on him. He wants us to rely on him. He wants us to stay in communication with him.
I also think it creates a genie complex for many people. Sets up the wrong precedents. Because a lot of us, when we come to God for take this away, It's after I've tried to fix this on my own. It's not while I'm in relationship, because in most cases I understand the discipline and everything that has to go through it. So if he removes it, then it's, oh shoot, if I find something else I don't like, he'll take that too. And then it's this, I rub the genie and it comes out. That's why I say it's a no, because it's like, most of us aren't doing it from a position of relationship. We're doing it from a position of fight.
I know a lot of people who want to go to heaven just because they want to escape the things of this world, and not because Jesus is there.
But that's real though.
Like, wanting to live with a man because he have plenty money, and not because you really care about him.
So you want to go to heaven, not because Jesus.
Because there's no death, and there's no
Right,
crying, and there's
right.
no pain,
My
and
auntie
there's
and
no
my
hurt,
uncle, and I
Right,
see
heaven
this
is
person.
I don't have to worry about these bills. I don't have to worry about this car payment. I don't have to worry about none of this stuff. That I have to sit here and worry about
And if
people
I never,
dying.
if I never see Jesus, and we never
Right,
talk,
right.
I'm good.
You know how many people you ask them who's the first person they're gonna talk to when they get to heaven? Let's say top 5, they've never mentioned Jesus. I got mad other people to see. No, I'm saying if you ask people that, it in some cases it shows motive, because if I say Jesus is my favorite person, that's my homie, and I finally get a chance to see it, say top 5 people you want to see when you get to heaven, and I don't mention him off the top, then it's like, how, you don't know them other people. Like,
None of them people did
anything
anything to help
for you,
get
right? How did they get top 5? A lot of people that just want to sit at the welcome table to eat food.
Sit at the welcome table.
And see, that's the thing with the whole. Somebody asked this question before. I think it was Chris when we were at Sabbath school. No, maybe it was Felder. I remember it was at Sabbath school though. And when he asked, one of them, they said, "What is your motivation for doing this?"
19. Mature, perfect love. We love because he first loved us as a response.
But you will be surprised how many responses.
At least my point was that's what it should be.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Or that's what it is for.
Or people were like, they've never, which was true, like we had never thought about it like that, because it's like, I'm just here, I'm just doing this thing. It's a thing to do, like, it was just amazing to, like, I had to ask myself that, like, I think a few times even, like, after that, like, I was like, wow, what really is my motivation for doing this, period?
Was
What
this
is
the
my
walk or
motivation?
Sabbath school?
No, this was in Sabbath school. I can't remember what the Sabbath school was about, but the person asked, what is your motivation for being a Christian?
Oh, okay. That's what I was.
My dad would argue that your initial motivation doesn't really matter as much. Because some people come in
different paths.
at different parts and at different points and for different reasons, whether they be what we think are good reasons or not. And whilst just being in allows them the opportunity to change and grow and mature.
They start beholding and then they become changed.
Yeah. But eventually, this is the destination I would think that we were all trying to get to. Because, as I understand, this is the only thing that really keeps you faithful perpetually. And because of predicament of choice, that's the only people he could keep around. The people who've been able to practice it in the challenging environment. Because, it was hard enough in the perfect environment. It was hard enough in the perfect environment. Eve didn't have like generational sins, in her blood that was leading her to desire this particular fruit. She wasn't abused as a child that made her, disrespect the father figure in her life. She didn't have a husband who was mean to her. She didn't, she didn't have none of that going on.
So what more in this messy world?
You have what she doesn't have too. You have context. You have context. Like, so while she didn't have history, you now have context. It evens the playing field.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's choice related to the relationship.
I wouldn't have given you human beings any choice.
Oh, that is exactly why you are not sovereign and you don't reign on the throne.
You're right. Because I would have
But choice
said
pre-
you don't get a choice.
Choice presents a problem.
I made you.
Because at any point on your timeline, somebody could choose.
But you know what that would bring though? You get a bunch of people that fear you and that don't love you.
Correct.
You know, you're sitting on a
No,
throne
you're
in
gonna
the
love
universe.
me. I
No.
created you. You're gonna. You don't
not
have
how
a
it
choice whether
works.
you love me or
See,
not. I'm gonna make it to where you love me.
And that was Satan's argument to Jesus
Like,
about
funny
Job.
how it
Like I
works.
made Khalil, I'm like, you love me, dude. You don't have a choice.
That's
You
not
love me
how
for
it
life.
works.
You love me for life. You respect me
Could have
for
worked
life.
that way. For example, God could have not put the tree.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have known not to love me if the tree wasn't there.
But then Satan.
And then
would
you
have
could
made a
not have
valid
known
point.
if you did love me or whether you would do. You couldn't. I couldn't tell what your motivation was, whether you were
Even
here or
if
not.
he
not.
would have
Made a
been
valid
straight
point.
because you wouldn't even have the choice to even think anything
But think-
outside. You straight. bro.
Think of it this way.
You want to be in a relationship with somebody like that, but you're not sure why they're here.
No, but because I look, I made this, so I'm gonna make it this
See,
way.
he would have
I'm not
proved
gonna be
Satan's
sitting up
point.
here. Like sometimes I really
No,
No,
but
he's
God-
saying Satan wouldn't have a point because
He
Satan would have
wouldn't.
a
Satan made
But
the
see,
point before. Adam and
Satan
Eve.
wouldn't have
But
had
Yeah,
it.
my
never had
question.
that choice.
Oh,
You would
wouldn't
want
have
to
a
be in a
point.
relationship with
Everybody
anybody,
no choice.
child or parent or whatever, but you're not sure why they're here. And you don't believe, you can't tell whether they're here for you.
Why I'm gonna create you if you're all over the place like that? Seriously,
This is-
why.
This is why you're not God.
But just because you create me
Just
doesn't
wait.
mean that I am obligated.
Right.
Oh, I don't create you. How about that?
Here's a horrible thing. When Khalil turns 18,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have no idea whether or not he really loves you
Mhm.
or he's tolerating you.
And you
He
created
loves
him.
me because he wants stuff right now.
And that's
Exactly.
okay.
But
And
so
you-
that's why I said
That's
when
a
he gets
phase
to
of love.
18 and he has that choice, you're gonna be faced like God to say, I have no idea
Why I made you.
what's your motive. I have no idea what your motive is. And so pick a side.
How else are you going to tell whether he loves you or not? And whether he's here for you or not?
You gotta pick a side.
And would you want to be in a relationship with him where you don't ever know? It's one thing if he works for you and you don't really care. There's another thing if your desire is to love on him and be in relationship with him.
Well, you
Then
know,
that becomes important.
you know what's interesting is the risk that you run. Like I don't think a lot of people realize the risk that God runs by saying, I'm going to love you regardless of what you choose, and it will hurt me.
Right.
I don't think we see, because remember when we love, we expect to be reciprocated, and we don't love anymore because it hurt. There are billions of people where he's like, I can get hurt 1 billion times, but it's worth the risk.
That's a lot of hurt.
I was
I'm
gonna say
just
something
saying.
bad. She's
That's a
not,
lot
so.
of hurt.
It's even more hurt
What a risk.
when all these other people watching and saying, that's your children? Them is the ones that look like you? And that's how they're treating you? You make them kids?
I mean, that's what Satan went up there when the council met. Yeah, what's that here? That's some love right there. Except for that one over there, I'm pretty sure he's in that situation. Or you just imagine every time the council meets. Like I don't believe the council met once just for joke. Every time the council meets, interesting. It's ridicule.
Because they look like you.
You made them in there.
They can't even deny them as your picnic. That means your picnic. Those belong to you. They got your behavior, they have your emotions, they have your attitude, they look like you.
Yeah, God has emotions, man.
It sure does.
God has emotions.
That's why you have them.
Because you're in his image.
Can I ask a really weird question? Do you think God... I'm pretty sure he doesn't, but I'm just going to ask it anyways. Do you think God has, like, PMS problems?
Yes.
Probably. I don't know.
The father has PMS problems. There is no reason why 1 minute he calm and next minute, swallow them up. Stuff. Like, Or him arguing with Moses. Your people have pissed me off.
Your people.
It's irrational. It is emotionally driven. Or when he's telling Deuteronomy, yo, I don't care about all this foolishness that you're doing. Like, that's all emotionally driven. The man got issues. No disrespect, bro, because I still get them, so I got them from you. But, like, he has to. There's no other reason to rationalize some of the stuff that, like your boy who touched the ark, like it's bad, but he had to. That is.
See, that's why I want to go there because I really want to ask. Did you really have to do that to that brother?
That's PMS
So
sometimes.
Z only wants to go to heaven so he can ask God. Why would you take him out?
But Z,
You can ask him here. The Holy Spirit will answer you.
I didn't want to have a conversation with him.
I can see Z. Excuse me. I don't know what y'all want to talk about, but
This is very important.
Hi.
Can we talk about this?
Right here. It's like, how you get the Bible up there with the sticky notes? We don't know, but it's up there.
It's a sticky note.
You know, I've been meaning to ask you.
And we're gonna talk about Pharaoh too.
Right.
And natural
I really
dog,
want to
the
talk
actual
about
one.
Right.
And
It's like,
then she'll be like, cue the tape.
I
wanna see it.
Run the footage. Run the footage.
really
I
wanna
want
talk
the
about
aerial
that.
view footage.
I really want to talk about Pharaoh.
I'd be like, can you get out the line, Z? No. This is my
Just
time.
us, please.
I've been
Please,
waiting
just-
all
I've
this
waited
time.
a long time. You need to tell me this, please.
What will you do if you get there and Pharaoh's in heaven like, yo, what up, Z?
I still want to know. Like, God, I mean.
Mm.
He said, mm.
We don't know what
He said,
happened to Pharaoh. Let's be real. Let's not hit on the door. We don't know what. We don't.
We only know what's written here.
We only know.
guys.
We know his
After
army.
that,
You know he died in the water.
That's not necessarily true.
You know he died in the water.
A fish came and got
At
him.
least that he died. We know when he died.
maybe
fish
he might
came
have
and
called
got
out
him.
like the thief.
Maybe. That's speculative.
May have called out and said,
I think it's more important whether you call out or not.
Jared's like, I'm not going there with you.
Don't do what I do. How long gonna take for that wave to
Did you
hit?
find what you're looking for?
No.
Okay. But I feel like our conversation kind of tied all our ideas together. The righteousness, love, the choice.
I don't know if I brought this up the last. I didn't bring it up the last time we were on the couch. But I did bring it up the last week in Water for the Thirsty. But when we were going over Jeremiah and Ezekiel, it's kind of a point where God was like, "Yo, I'm about to tear you behind." And then he's like, "You know what? I'm not going to, for my name's sake." And so I'll go through the phase of reading and I'm just like, wow, I wonder what I am not getting for his name's sake.
You know what's also interesting? Jeremiah was in the place prophesying in the space where the people were going to be punished. After the first punishment, Ezekiel was among the people after they had been in the first set of punishment. So they were talking to, one was talking to the people saying, behave or I'm gonna punish you. And then the other one was saying, you're in the corner, behave. But they were also talking back and forth because Ezekiel was talking to the people who were left as well. And Jeremiah was talking to the people who were in exile as well. So it was like a back and forth. But Ezekiel was located with the exiles and Jeremiah stayed. He was never taken into exile. So that's an important perspective to process what's being said when you understand who's saying it from where and to who. And that they both were talking around the same time. So they're like they're contemporaries. So it's at the same time period, the same things are happening, and each one is, sharing different parts of it. It gives it more relevance, and it doesn't feel as much, at least it didn't for me, feel as much as if we just reading a random book. When you understand, the dynamics of it, then you go like, oh, okay, so that's what he's,
that's what he's talking about.
I know it just feels different when you read it, when you go through it the next time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add that so that, you can talk. Anyway, let's do our takeaways because it is now 10 o'clock. Start with you.
So, my takeaway is that righteousness is the way God, so I'm probably going to say it wrong, but the way God sees me as opposed to the things I do to manifest any type of real relationship between the two of us.
Alright.
My idea of love
It's trash.
is trash. Thank you. It's trash.
Alright.
Earth is practice for heaven.
Mm. That's why the kingdom idea matters.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway. That's why the kingdom idea matters. Because we become citizens of the kingdom even before we.
Inhabit the kingdom.
Well, yes, because the kingdom exists everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kingdom is a way of being. So, you know, that's why it matters. That's why it matters.
Sam, what's your takeaway? Love smile.
Vanessa, takeaways?
I want to say I love people like you and these two. When Sharika says she doesn't really love anybody else, like, but I love, and then I'm like, do I? Wait,
Nah,
do
Sam
I?
about to get kicked out the bed.
My mom watching now.
And look now, do I really like put them first 100%? I would say 90%, but not 100%. And that's the type of love that God has for me. It was just that. Sorry, it's nothing deep.
For those who are on, please also share in your takeaways.
No, none yet. No, come in.
Yes, please share your takeaways in the group chat so we can all benefit from them. Z, would you close us out with prayer?
Absolutely.
And then we'll follow up with any takeaways that come in while we're praying.
Absolutely. Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for your Sabbath hours, first of all, and thank you for allowing us this time to delve into your word, to get to know you even more. And Lord, thank you so much for revealing so much to us and letting us know that we have to have the mindset of heaven here. Now, God, we ask that you help us to show the same grace and mercy that you've shown us. Help us to extend it to others and help us, Lord, to show love the way you've shown us love, as we've experienced it in you to others. Be with us in everything that we do. And again, thank you for the Sabbath. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. No?
Nope.
Amen? Alright, cool. Well, thank you guys for those who did contribute to the conversation and for chiming in and for joining us, being a part of the conversation with us. Just a quick reminder, we are on every first and third Friday, and if you don't already have a copy of the reading plan, you can download it from your app store or Google. We also have a forum on Facebook, a group on Facebook where, you know, in the middle of the week between the 2 week sessions, you know, post questions, share thoughts, you know, and experience community as we read the word together. Until the next time, on the next Ladies First Fridays, I'm hoping that I can sit over where Vanessa is.
Nope.
And I can, you know, enjoy the conversation from over there.
That's not what the Lord told me.
Nope. Didn't get that message either.
Sam didn't either because he laughed at you.
Till next time, you guys drink up.
I have a